Thank you so much. Great to let this occur, to become quiet and to, it would be great to have a reminder like that many times during the day, like, oh, it's an illusion. Don't fight it. Don't fight it. So this is like what I shared a moment ago, like a couple of days ago. So it's like in my defenselessness lies my safety. Like if I don't defend myself, I'm actually meeting my safety. So that's the same here. Don't fight it. Otherwise, what are you doing? You make the illusion real for yourself, only for you. And that's not going to help you. That's not going to help you out of it. And so with the words of the Buddha in Joel's dream, this was given him. It's great to say have that close to you when you're meditating. You see that you can have an expression as I and the Father are one, of course, absolutely. But this is also like an instruction, like leave it. No, calm down. No, you don't have to respond to this right now. No, you let go. And that opens up something in your consciousness, and that is so lovely. So it's so great that it's like either way it works great. So the next part in this moment together is like, well, we're a healing group, mystical eye healing group, and how about the healing? What's occurring? Well, see, in Joel's talk, you'll discover too a lot of instruction for practitioners, and some of them I will say pay some attention to right here, because it's say useful, just as an example of what all the expressions of Joel that are in his talk. See, the thing I can say to you is like everyone is equal in this. It's like don't make the practitioner, teacher, or whatever, Buddha, Joel, special with something like, well, that's unreachable for me. No, the recognition that this is happening in you, and discovering that, in fact, every experience that you go through that is like a God communication is going to be used in your, on your path, in your experience of yourself. You will get opportunities to share this with others. And that's an essential part in the, transformation, that you learn to, to give away what you maybe just have received. You start to learn to demonstrate it, apply it, or teach it, or, bring it into practice, just because you, it's literally you start to attract the ones that you can share it with. And this is a very subtle, balance that you have inside of you, because you might think like, well, no, that's not for me. No. It's like you, to take responsibility for it, asks of you to stand up and actually stand for it, and recognize the experience that you have. This is how your consciousness expands and grows, by giving it away. And so that's why I love to shed some light on it, or emphasize it, in fact. Like that's really something. In your awakening, it's an essential part. You will have to teach this, or you have to start to demonstrate this in order for your recognition, for your consciousness to grow. And the beauty of that is, as soon as you share it, as soon as you're not afraid to do that, or it happens spontaneously, you see yourself do it, you see that by the acceptance of the so-called other, it is also like made stronger in you. And it's like you share an idea, but both receive the benefit of it. So you grow in certainty. It's literally, this is how you share it with your brother. How you, same as what I do here, right? So, so the taking responsibility for that, and not thinking that you don't have any of those experiences, is that is just an escape, in fact, out of taking responsibility for it, recognizing it for yourself, what you experience, and what that has helped you. You see that there will be possibilities to give that away. Like, this is how spirit works. You will get the opportunities, and in that it can grow in your consciousness, not anyone else's. It's not that you have to start teaching others to make them better or something. It's like, no, you do this for yourself. You say, confirm what you know inside yourself. So that's a great thing. So now there are two, you could say, like, fundamental principles. Maybe it's just one, but it's actually the same. There's one fundamental principle that Joel is sharing here in, say, in the light of the Buddha and of the enlightened mind, of the your whole mind, as I could say. It's like your whole mind. Joel shares one principle, and it has everything to do with perception, with the way that you see things, like with what we just shared in the meditation too. It's like discovery of what is Maya, what is illusion, what isn't. And so these, I will show it to you in something I made for that. So let me see. I think it's this one. Yes. So it's still in the light of Buddha. That's why I put a Buddha next to it. But does it have anything to do with Buddha as a personality? No. No, it's about your whole consciousness. So here are two expressions. So Joel mentions one, which is, for instance, one about the Maya of poverty. It's like, poverty isn't a condition of your pocketbook. So of your bank account. Poverty isn't a condition of your bank account or your pocketbook. Condition is a poverty of your mind. That's where it starts. It has nothing to do with your pocketbook or your bank account. It's a poverty condition of your mind. And here another one. So sickness isn't a condition of your body. So sickness isn't a condition of your body. Condition is a sickness of your mind. The condition is a sickness of your mind. So it's like the mind is sick that thinks that sickness can exist. And it can be corrected because you can change your mind. So that's our healing opportunity. So I'm not saying that we go dive into changing your mind and having different thoughts about it. No, this is a bit different. So this is not something you can work out mentally. But how does it work then? Okay, so I'm reading these a couple of times more. Poverty isn't a condition of your pocketbook. Condition is a poverty of your mind. That makes sense, right? Sickness isn't a condition of your body. Condition is a sickness of your mind. So in fact, Buddha said this too. It's like he discovered, no, there's no such thing as sickness. No, there is no such thing as poverty. No, there's no such thing as any of these things. And which is really great, because see, it's like you discover more and more, you discover there's only one voice, in fact, and that's the one that you're going to listen to. If you want to stay true to yourself, you listen, you start to listen to the one voice, which is your voice. Deep down, it's your voice, it's not anyone else's voice. So it's like it is just the voice of your whole mind speaking to you, the voice of the Holy Spirit speaking to you, the voice of God speaking to you. And that's where the occurrence takes place. So when I listen to that, when I'm becoming still and start to communicate with that, something occurs in me. And that means that I was convinced of my own poverty, for instance. I check my bank account, it's completely, say, empty. And I have to recognize that that is a condition of my mind. Like, it has nothing to do with the numbers. It has nothing to do with any of the forms that you might think it has to do with. So it's like it is in my mind. If I connect with, say, my totality, how could I possibly miss anything? How could I not experience abundance in all ways and complete fulfillment in all ways? You know, so but that's a shift in consciousness. It's not like, okay, I changed my mind. No, it's not. It's because I'm thinking like that. No, that's not where change can occur. So you know this because you've tried it a million times for sure, or at least some 100 times maybe, or maybe 10 times, or at least you tried it once. It's funny, isn't it? So it's like you're locked into a condition, right? The mental, let's say you could say the human condition. You're locked in a human condition as long as you believe that there's anything there for you. So you can escape out of it, but not by the ways that you think it will work, because you have tried all those and they didn't work, because that's why you find yourself here. So now there's another thing, there's some other occurrence that can take place, like you can call it the alternative, that can take place, and it will literally come to you and show you what the steps are, or what the new experience of yourself will be. You cannot make that yourself. So this is what we do also in meditation, to become still, to listen, become receptive, completely open mind, like completely open. And now, in fact, you wait patiently. Your servant is hearing. It's like I'm right here. I'm open. I'm willing to accept. I'm willing to give up any ideas that I hold about my condition. You know, I don't want any of it. I don't want to fight it, but I also don't want to keep it. So here's the possibility for a split second, and possibility of a totally different experience. Now Joel, in this talk, is offering you this on a moment-by-moment basis. In fact, this is his drive to start talking in the first place, to give you the opportunity for a new experience. So when we listen to it, that is like our, say, ground attitude, to become receptive, to be open, to receive what he's sharing in a way that we've never, like, we don't know how to do this. This is a whole new beginning, a whole new episode in which there's another opportunity to start all over again, like completely blank slate. So there's nothing written on it yet. We're going to receive what has been given.
In drawing forth some measure of what the world recognizes as good, in that degree will we have the capacity to teach others to draw this forth from within themselves. And then those who are led to us by virtue of their being of our household, we will be enabled to help. It doesn't mean that we can run to Washington, D.C. or to Downing Street and to teach them. It doesn't mean that we can run to the doctors in the hospitals and teach them. It means that we must sit in our own homes until those are led to us who, by grace, have received the spiritual capacity to receive what we have to give. Silver and gold have I none, such as I have give I unto thee. But then, if you haven't the receptivity to want what I have to give, if your mind is set on the silver or gold or the things, then you will miss the way. You will discover that most of those who come to you either have a metaphysical background of one nature or another, it might be Christian Science or Unity or New Thought, or they have an Orthodox background, and for this reason they are not coming to you for God or the revelation of God. They are coming to you for the things of this world which they hope to attain through God. In other words, the Orthodox Church has encouraged the thought that you can pray to God for Mrs. Jones's health, or you can pray to God for somebody's supply, or success in business, or success in war. And the metaphysical world has encouraged the belief that God is our servant, and that we can use God, use mind, use truth to get the things we want, the things of earth that we want. And so you will discover that most of those who come to you will not be seeking the kingdom of God which you have to offer, but will rather be seeking that you use your good offices with God to get them that which they need at the moment. And so you become automatically a practitioner and a teacher, because you can't leave them under the belief that you have some kind of an inside influence with God that can get them their health or their supply or their divorce or their marriage. And so the moment you begin to explain to them that your function is to reveal the kingdom of God, you have begun to teach. And the moment they have accepted that, and you begin to meditate for them, that the grace of God be revealed within them, you are a practitioner. So that it makes no difference whether you are recognized in or on a list as a teacher or practitioner. You are a teacher and a practitioner in the moment that anyone comes to you, seeking that which you have. I might state here in parenthesis that being listed as a teacher or practitioner merely means that someone not only has attained sufficient consciousness to do this work, but that also they are sufficiently free of business or family ties so that they can give a great portion of their time to those who come to them, so that those who are listed will never by any manner of means represent the numbers of those who are capable of being listed if they had the sufficient freedom from other cares. But understand that any infinite way student who has come to recognize that the infinite way is a revelation of the nature of God, of the nature of prayer, of the nature of man, and of the nature of error. Any such student is a teacher or practitioner, but only, of course, after they've been called upon to perform that function. It is folly to seek to be a practitioner or teacher, because it can't succeed. That is why I remind the students so often that it is deadly to be a do-gooder. It is deadly to want to save this world. It is deadly to want to be a teacher or a practitioner. the only life-giving substance there is the desire to know God aright. This alone is worthwhile. Let the rest of the world burn up, because you can't stop it anyhow, regardless of how good your wishes may be. You never will be able to help this world until you yourself have spiritually attained. Therefore, leave this world alone, and if it must burn itself up, let it, while you will go about your business of attaining spiritual consciousness. Then you will find that having attained it, you'll be busier than you would like to be, because then the world will be the pathway to your door. It can't help it. Wherever the light is, the darkness just gravitates there to be dispelled. Now, the time has come when a transition is about to take place in the activity of the infinite way. And it's only about 17 years ago that I was the only infinite way student, the only one receiving daily these impartations. And my first class consisted of 3 students, and my second one of 8. We began in a very, very small way. But for most of these 17 years, I have been the only traveler, the only lecturer, the only teacher, and for the most part, the only practitioner. I have handled a practice. Only now do we know to what extent. Never less than 1,000 patients at a time. 60, 70, 80, 100 letters a day coming. And in the course of a week, count them all up, and each one from a different person. And then you will know the extent of that practice in every part of the globe. Now, within the last few years, one has developed here, and one has developed there, and another one has developed here, until we do have a very small practitioner list in the United States and in England. And in England, the practitioner list includes the practitioners and teachers of all countries outside of the United States and Canada. And you'll know it's a very small list. So I have had some help. But still, I have been the only one lecturing and giving classes. And now you must realize that that can no longer be. The infinite way has gotten to the place now where it is just an impossibility to cover even the major cities of the world by one individual. And therefore, the work is beginning to enter another phase where other students will be called upon to lecture and eventually to teach. Also, more students will be needed to be more active in healing work. Listed or not listed, this is of relative unimportance, as long as they have the healing consciousness. Well, there are only two ways in which the healing consciousness can be attained. One is by an act of grace, which means that we don't know how it happened or why, but out of the clear it happens. And my experience shows that this happens to but very, very few people. All of the others attain their healing consciousness through the practice of specific principles. Now, there can be no rules laid down, no regulations governing the developing of spiritual consciousness, because with one, it will take place in an instant with the realization of just one principle. With another, it may take place after years and years of living with the principles until one or two or three begin to register. One of Mrs. Eddy's earliest students became known as a very great healer. And he never told his students his secret, because he early discovered that it was no use. They couldn't grasp it after he told it to them. But one of his students was determined to get the secret. And, well, she got herself into a position one time where it was possible for her to say to him, "I know that you have a secret which you do not tell your students, and that is responsible for your great healing works. And I must know it." And he said, "Yes, I have a secret, and I would love to tell it to you, but it won't do you any good." "Oh, I don't believe that. I must know it." And her persistence won out for her. Eventually he said, "All right, I'm going to tell it to you." He said, "You know that," Mrs. Eddy said, that mortal mind is the sum total of all error, and that mortal mind is a term denoting nothingness. And so he said, when any error is presented to me, I just say mortal mind and forget it. And he was right. She couldn't grasp it. She couldn't grasp it. So it is that the message of the infinite way has really as its major healing principle the nature of error. If you can grasp that all error, regardless of whether it's individual or collective, or whether it concerns an individual or a tidal wave, is actually nothing but the universal belief in two powers, you're a good practitioner and you'll have marvelous results. But that has always been its principle, and we still have very few practitioners. Why? Because the belief in two powers is so firmly planted in human consciousness that we cannot look at a form of error and say it is neither good nor evil. We are determined to get rid of it or overcome it or rise above it. or we are determined to get the power of God to do something to it. In a dream, I was shown the whole vision of Gautama the Buddha. From the start of his riding horseback in a parade and beholding disease, poverty, and death, and watching the thought in his mind, how horrible these things are. And then the realization that I can never be content until I know how to rid the world of these. And the whole vision of his search through teachers. One teacher who taught him, well, I suppose standing on your head will make you spiritual, and another one, starving will make you spiritual, another one, sitting on nails will make you spiritual, until he went through all of it, and finally, bathing in the holy river Ganges one day, he was so weak from malnutrition that he nearly drowned. He could hardly get out of the river. Only with great difficulty did he climb up the bank and said, this cannot be the way to find God, truth. And so he began to eat, and he began to live normally, and his disciples deserted him because he wasn't spiritual. Well, he let them go, and he got himself bodily strong, and then was able to sit under the Bodhi tree and meditate. And do you know what the illumination was when it came to him? That all of this world of sin and disease and poverty and death was an illusion. Maya. Well, do you know that on the strength of that revelation, his teaching spread across India faster, without telegraph, telephone, wireless, television, railroads, or airplanes, than the infinite way has spread with all of those. The truth was so powerful. Don't fight this. This is illusion. Yes, the healing ministry of Gautama the Buddha was the greatest healing ministry ever known to man. Nothing like it has ever been known before or since. But it was lost while he was still on earth. And it was lost because the disciples could not understand the nature of Maya or illusion. They thought that this world out here of earth and trees and sky and these bodies, that this was illusion. That the Master never said. He never said that the world out here is illusion. The sin, the disease, and the poverty and the lack is the illusion. In other words, and mark this well, please, an illusion can never be objectified. An illusion is a mental misperception. Therefore, when we say that disease is an illusion, it doesn't mean that you have a disease on your body and we're going to get rid of it. It means that it's a mental misperception and it doesn't exist in or on your body. And the recognition of it as illusion dispels the picture. Poverty isn't a condition of your pocketbook. Condition is a poverty of your mind. There is no such thing as a poverty of pocketbook, because equally every one of us owns all there is on earth. Nobody in this world owns the growing capacities of trees or crops or mines. And nobody owns a portion of this earth called an acre or 1,000 acres. They don't hold a legal title to it, but they don't hold ownership to it. And they find that out as they deposit the property with the probate court, that they didn't own it. To be a teacher or practitioner of the infinite way doesn't mean that you have power to heal people's diseases or their lacks or limitations. It means that you have attained the recognition of the illusory nature of what is presented to you as a problem. It doesn't mean that you're so close to God that God, through you, will do something for mankind. Heaven forbid that God should be so localized as to be personal to anybody. Oh no. To be a teacher, to be a practitioner, to be able to help those who come to you means that you have attained an awareness of these principles, and that through the constant living with them, studying them, and putting them into practice as you can, that your consciousness has evolved to that place where, when you are asked for help, that you too can say, Maya, illusion, and then go back to sleep. You see, the kingdom of God is intact. Spiritual man has not degenerated into a mortal, and mortal man is never going to be lifted up into the status of a spiritual being. What happens is that the teacher, the practitioner, has attained the capacity to look you in the eye and see the spiritual Son of God, and not believe the evidence of the senses, not believe the appearance, whether it testifies to sin or disease or lack or limitation. This is the spiritual healer, not the one who prays to God that you be healed. They've been doing that in orthodoxy for thousands of years. The spiritual healer is one who can look you right in the eye and say, I know thee, who thou art. You are the Holy One of Israel. And then, as to this appearance of sin, disease, false appetite, lack, say, that's the Maya, that's the illusion. That's what would fool you into doing something. You have to remember the illustrations given in many of the Infinite Way classes about going to the desert and seeing a big body of water there. What are you going to do? Bring a great big hose and pump it off? That's what the do-gooder would do. No, you're going to look at it and say, that's an illusion, and walk right through it. Not even seek God's help. Well, but this is predicated on a further revelation of the infinite way, virtually exclusive to the infinite way. And that is that prayer and meditation is not to be used for increasing man's humanhood or improving it. This is not the way. This is the way of the religionist. This is the way of failure. You remember Jesus spoke of that one time when he said that many were healed in Moses' day, but they died. Many were fed and they hungered again. Oh yes, you can put into effect all of the social security laws you like. It probably is good as far as it goes, but it isn't going to prevent poverty. Now, our infinite way teachers and practitioners must develop that consciousness within themselves that knows they are not trying to improve somebody's humanhood. They're not trying to reduce a fever. They're not trying to remove germs. They're not trying to get them better employment or happier households. No. The infinite way teacher and practitioner must have as the goal the realization of Christ, the realization of spiritual identity. It is true that with this realization, all these things are added unto you. That is true. But you and I have nothing to do with that. Like our Scotch minister who wanted peace on earth and the absence of famine and disease, and was told, we don't deal in fruits, only in seeds. We don't deal in the infinite way in fruits. We don't deal in good health. We don't deal in supply and happiness. We deal in the revelation of the Christ as individual selfhood. This is the seed of truth. And then this seed, embodied in your consciousness, kept there secretly and sacredly, bears fruit. And the fruitage is peace, prosperity, health, wholeness, happiness. But we do not have those things, not any more than Peter and John at the temple gate beautiful. Silver and gold have I none. Ah, what have we? The Spirit of God. Those who come to you for help mostly will come for the fruits. And then begins the process of re-education. Oh yes, I will take up work for you at once. But remember, I'm seeking for you the realization of God, the activity of divine grace. And then these things will be added. Oh, you cannot in the beginning tell them all of this. It has to be given to them very gently. But eventually, you must lead the student, the patient, up to the recognition of that fact through revealing to them the nature of God, the nature of prayer, the nature of error, ultimately the nature of man. Now, this you cannot impart to students very early in their experience. This that I'm about to say, as a rule, can only be imparted after years, unless it be some unusual student who is spiritually opened and capable of receiving it sooner. But listen to this anyhow. The nature of God and the nature of man is one and the same, because God and man is one and the same. There are not two. There is not God and man. Actually, God is man. God is individual man. Thou seest me, thou seest the Father that sent me. Why? Because I and the Father are one.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for joining and listening to Joel. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. So you see, like there's some familiar passages in this talk that you could listen to already in the daily meditations that we do on weekdays, as I call it, like weekdays, from Monday to Friday. We come together at 7 a.m. Pacific time to do the deep meditation, and I used this week a couple of times Joel's expressions, and this was the last thing that we heard was also part of that. So yeah, that's great to, it's like use the tape that we listen to come to an experience. It really becomes part of us when we practice it, when we hear it over and over. So this is, I think, really beautiful that came to me to do it like this. So that's something I totally trust then. But the great thing is that so from the text, like the transcript that we use next week or the tape, I will do the same thing. It's like I will use it in the meditations too, at least 3 of them or so. And just to come already to a deeper experience or a deeper recognition of what Joel is sharing. Because you see, it's not that it gets serious or anything. It's more like, no, you see how to place this, like wherever you find yourself in your spiritual development, whatever happens in your, say, development is perfect. It's perfectly orchestrated altogether anyway. But your personal, say, responsibility for the recognition and recognizing it in yourself and standing for that is something that that we practice, that we have to learn in that sense. And opportunities enough, so that's really great too. So I love that. So for now, this is our time. It was our time for the Mystical Eye Healing Group. Let me know if you have any, say, questions or concerns, or you think like, well, I'd like to know more about this, or what should I read, or what should I do? It's not that I know all the answers, but say where 2 or more are gathered in consciousness, I will be there. So the answer will be there too. So I saw, for instance, now a chat flying by, and see what it says. Oh yes, This is in the same vein as it's an illusion. I love it when Joel says it's nonsense. It's just nonsense. Yeah, or rubbish. He puts it in the garbage bin. He always says that too. Like also when he says it's a rumor, just a rumor. So what? So what? I know. Thanks for sharing that, saying that's really great. Yes, indeed. So you can apply that and see that it breaks something when you say it. It's like, no, nobody died at that car accident. No, that's a rumor. Like, no, that is not what it was. No, that cannot be it. So I've an actual experience with that too, just this week. It's beautiful to see that if you take that as a rumor instead of a reality, you see something is opening up and you're actually able to communicate with the one that, for instance, appeared to have died in the car accident. So I had a vivid experience of that. So it's like that opens something. It's not just a vain exercise. No, it's actually opens something up in me, in you, when you express this. And see, this is why I emphasize the idea of subtle changes inside yourself. So it's like, who knows, I might be able to communicate with the one that is in this so-called occasion or accident or whatever happened, who knows. Or, it's like all of these things are giving you opportunities to listen, to hear more than you ever heard before. And in that discovery, you will be placed exactly in a situation where you can share it with someone. Literally in the moment, you can share it with someone. You'll see. Like I speak from deep experience. It's seeing that always works like that. Something opens up. At the same time, there's someone next to you who you can actually share it with. It's like beautiful coincidence, beautiful happening. So I love that. So this is what we give away to one another in the moments that we come together, that we meet someone in the street or have a little chat for no reason and suddenly something happens. But it's up to you to be conscious of that. Nothing is just a normal human conversation. So that depends on how you are perceiving it, not on the guy that you're talking to or the girl. All right. So thank you so much for your presence here today in the healing class, in the Mystical Eye Healing Group. And I hope to see you soon. I will certainly play a song, but I hope to see you soon. And maybe you join in the say deep peace meditations during the week. We had a lot of fun doing so. So it was like we meditate for really 30 minutes. There's not much words, there's some music, and afterwards it's like you get so excited by the recognition that you actually feel like celebrating. So that's what happens sometimes spontaneously too, that we find ourselves dancing or listening to music in a way that is like great to share this with one another. So you're totally, heartfully, completely invited to it, to come and join. It's great. Everyone can come. You're welcome. It's easy. You don't have to do anything. You can just come as you are. You don't have to become something or none of that. So thank you for this. Thank you. you.